Welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. And I've got a very special guest with me today, Paul. And Paul is a client of ours who bought a home recently. And so we're just going to chat, Paul, and discuss what the process was like for our listeners and viewers, whether they are thinking of buying a home. Now, I think you're a seasoned pro. Have you bought a few homes in your days?
I have bought a few.
Okay.
4 or 5, I guess.
4 or 5. Okay, well, that's pretty seasoned because the average
And in
person only
different
buys about
places.
4 or so in their lifetime.
Right.
So 4 or 5 years, you're a pro.
So I bought in Pembroke, bought in Halifax. So when I was in the forces and being moved around, we ended up buying houses when through that process.
So you're used to fairly quick criteria. You know, you come in, you got 3 or 4 days to buy a house and back out, right?
That's how it was on those initial buys. But then the last house we bought, well, I guess 2 houses ago, we bought farm property.
Okay.
And so actually that was a much longer process, as you probably know. And
Yeah.
so I'm kind of, I guess I would just say, I've had a chance to experience kind of, come in, you have 4 or 5 days in a house hunting trip to try to find a place right away, and other experiences where we've taken a lot longer to try to find a certain property that we were looking for.
Yeah, and when the house we found for you, you actually had time, right? You weren't under a lot of pressure to buy something right away, but we did find something very quickly in that particular case.
Yeah, well, I think it happened, I felt like it happened in the right time, because we did, that was when you'd broken your ankle.
Yes.
So during that time I worked with Candace, so I actually ended up looking at about 10 or 11 different houses with Candace, and didn't really see anything that I really liked. And then all of a sudden that one came up, the one I ended up buying, and it was the right one.
And I hobbled over there
quickly. Yeah, well, I think you were a little better by then. It had been a few weeks, but it worked out really well.
Awesome.
I'm really happy with the place.
Okay, great. So what caused you to call the Decker team in the first place? Like, how'd you find us?
So there's a couple of folks at work that have worked with you before.
Okay.
And so they're all, good friends. And when I said that I was looking for a new place, they all recommended you and said that they'd have really good experiences, and that it's not only you, but your whole family's kind of involved, and how much they appreciated working together with your son and with Yetta. And so when the opportunity came up and I was looking for a place, I wanted to call you first.
Okay.
Based on that referral.
Oh, great. And so what was the process like? Once you called, what happened next?
Well, I think fairly quickly we made an appointment for me to come and see you. And we had a private appointment in your office, and you were kind of curious about what I was looking for, where did I want to look, what kind of process was I expecting, what experiences I had in the past. And I thought we had a really good about an hour and a half where we sat down and kind of talked about my goals and what I was looking for and the kind of house that I was looking for. And then we sat down in front of the computer and we kind of looked at the city and we mapped out the areas that I was looking.
Right.
And so I thought that was pretty helpful. And then we set up this system where you would send me listings. I don't know, sometimes it was every day, sometimes it was every other day of new listings as they came on the market. And so through that process, I was able to, get a really good sense of what was out there and what I was looking for. Okay,
so that hour, we spent about an hour and a half, like you said, rather consultative.
Yeah.
And we had to take care of a little bit of paperwork.
Yeah.
But also it was really good to get to know you, understand your goals, your desires for your home. And then we did set up that search like you talked about and put the criteria in for where in the city you wanted the property and price and all those kind of things, bedrooms, number of bedrooms and garages and all those things. And our system actually was checking for you may not have known this, but it was checking every 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So every 2 hours it would check, and if there's something new that matched that criteria, it would email it out to you. And that's why some days you might have gotten 2, 3 emails, and other days you may not have gotten any because nothing new came on the market.
But I got to admit, the thing I liked about it was, I think we all get tons of emails now.
Right.
And I didn't want to just be receiving all these emails and have to sort through it. And the nice thing was I could go to this web page that was dedicated to me, and it had my kind of search criteria in there and all the properties that had been found that met those things that I was looking for. And I was able to go in there and look at all the properties. I could kind of favorite the ones that I really liked.
Right.
And then when I went to set up appointments with you or with Candace, I could just say, hey, I've favorited these properties that I want to look at. And whoever on your team would be able to go in there and refer to that. And so I didn't have to email listings back and forth. I didn't have to sort of sort through my inbox all the time trying to figure out where was that listing that I got and where's this other one.
Oh, okay.
But everything being on this one web page was really helpful, and I really liked that.
Okay, so when you got an email that there was a new property, it had a link in it and it took you back to your personal web page.
Exactly.
And all the properties were listed there as well as the new ones that had come on.
Right, and so they would be in order that I received them so that I could easily find them. Like if I said, oh, what was that property I looked at a couple days ago or whatever, I could kind of tell by where it was in the listing, where it was. And so I found it really easy to use, and there was a couple of different sort of search tools that were in there. I can't remember exactly how they worked, but it just made it really easy for me to find, the property that I was thinking of, go back, look at all the pictures, look at a map of the city, and where those different places were and that kind of thing. And so it made it easy because based on my search criteria, and I don't know if it was really broad, but there was quite a few properties, and the market had a lot of homes on it last year, as you probably remember. So with all these properties, it would have made it really difficult to kind of sort through. But because of the tools that were associated with that system, I was able to fairly quickly hone in on those properties I was interested in, identify them, and then when we went looking at the properties, I was going and looking at the houses I was interested in and not wasting time looking at anything else.
That's an interesting point. So you found that the process allowed you to only look at the properties that were really interesting to you.
Yeah.
And I find that with the internet now and our portal that you went into, which has all the houses, not only does it have pictures, but it has all the room sizes and taxes and type of heating and all kinds of information in there. And it will map it for you. And it'll do a bird's eye view, so you can see. I don't know if you clicked on the bird's eye view. Did it have that for you?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I just remember it being really useful.
Okay. Because when you can know what's in the neighborhood and what's around it, like even if you use Google Maps and you do it from the air, if you see that the property's here and there's a commercial store across the street or something, you don't want to be in that busy an area, you rule it out right away. So you get to see a lot fewer homes, but they all are very close to what you're looking for, which should shorten the time and make it very efficient.
I think, of interest in that, I did use Google Maps together with the system.
Okay.
Because the imagery in that on Google Maps is so good, and you can do the street view as well as the aerial view, and you can see, like you said, the neighborhood and, the properties in the immediate vicinity of the house you're looking at. And so I found that was, that combination was really worked for me. The one thing I had to kind of adjust to at first was the room sizes, because the pictures today, they have these really good wide-angle lenses. They make every room look really big.
That's their realtor's job, yes.
When the first couple of houses I visited, I was kind of shocked at how small they really were.
Okay.
I just kind of remember looking at it going, geez, the perspective from the image on the website or whatever was very different than actually being in the house. And so it took a little adjustment from that kind of perspective at the start. Was recognizing, okay, all of these rooms are a little smaller than what they look in the pictures.
Right.
And then I started to, like you said, pay attention more to the dimensions. And then you can get a sense of what is it that I'm looking at. Is this really a big living room, or is it kind of tiny? Is it just good photography, or is it really the kind of house that I'm looking for?
Yeah, maybe even a little photoshopping.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
I could understand that.
So the beauty is now, especially when you've lived in other homes, is you can go and measure where your existing home is, right, where the room sizes, and then go by the room sizes that are
Right.
on the listing and go, okay, my furniture will fit here because this room is a foot wider or 2 feet wider and that kind of thing. So that's great. Yeah, awesome. So how closely did the house that you ended up buying match the criteria that we discussed the first day in that consultation?
I think pretty closely. I think at the time I said I was looking for 3 or 4 bedrooms with, 3 or 4 bathrooms, and that's exactly what we ended up with. I wanted to be inside the green belt, and that's where I ended up. I wanted something that was newer, but still affordable. And what were some of the other things we talked about? Something on a bus route. So I think most of the criteria were met really well. And I've been in the house now for almost 3 months, and it's really working for me.
Okay, so it's
Really
only been
happy
3 months.
there.
I was thinking it was 5 or
Yeah.
6 months.
No.
But it's only been 3 months. Okay.
I think the close date was the 13th of November.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
so
pretty recent.
but we bought it in the summer though. It just didn't close until November.
That's right. Yeah, it was
Okay,
a bit of a
that's-
longer close. The family had a few things I guess they wanted to take care of before we went, and
Right.
that was kind of part of the negotiation process. Was willing to extend out the due date or the close date in order to accommodate them, but I think it also meant that maybe we did better price wise. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you did well because once we found the property, then we went back to the office, right? When you said, okay, I think this is it. Let's maybe put an offer in, and we went back and we did some comparison. I did some comparison on the computer, and as a matter of fact, that house, I think maybe the realtor missed the mark a little bit, maybe underpriced it, because there's different brands of homes, different builders demand a slightly different pricing, and he priced it more like the lower brand builder, and all the ones that were of that manufacturer or those builders had all sold higher. So I think you did really, really well.
Yeah, I was pretty excited, and one of the neat things about it, and I haven't really started to renovate that yet, but the basement has like almost 8-foot ceilings. And so when I set that up as the rec room that I have planned, and I've got a pool table coming, I think it's going to be just perfect because it does have all that headspace. I didn't want to end up in a basement that had 6.5-foot ceilings or whatever,
Right.
and you feel like you're in a cave and you kind of have to crouch down. And my son at 18, he's got some very tall friends, and they'd be banging their head on the ceiling, I'm sure. So
Yes. And so do you have a home theater in mind? Or
yeah,
that
so
kind of thing?
that's, I have a pool table coming. I want to put in a home theater and a bar in one corner, and also I want to put in a bathroom down in the basement as well.
Okay, sounds exciting.
Yeah, it should be good.
And when you're going to do a home theater, if you're going to do projection, the ceiling height's very important. That you can get
okay,
get
that
the
makes
projector up high enough, because the more height you have, what happens now with the wide aspect is you can get wide, but you can't get too wide because you need the depth. And if you, so you can, it limits. Really, it's usually the ceiling height that limits how big a screen you can actually buy.
Well, that makes a lot of
So
sense.
when you go to do that, I can talk to you.
Okay.
I did all the research when I did my home theater on projections and what size of room you need or how far back you need
I've been
to be
kind of
and all
looking
that.
already, and one of the things that surprised me is they say that the screen that you're going to project on, you got to invest in that too. You can't just get a good projector, because if the screen isn't good quality, then you're not going to get a good image.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
screen is half the battle.
Right. They said
Yep.
you should spend half your budget on the screen and half your budget on the projector.
Well, I'll show you a place that has great value. Maybe
Okay.
maybe you'll spend a quarter or half of what you're spending on the projector on the screen.
Oh,
and,
yeah?
and still get a fantastic
Okay,
screen.
that'd be great.
4K high definition screen.
I'll tell you, that's one of the things that I find about our relationship is that we seem to have some very similar interests, and every time I talk to you, I'll walk away with these little tidbits of knowledge or information that helps me out one way or another. So it's really great.
Yeah, it was
Thanks for
actually that was funny when we were actually doing the home inspection on your property. Do you remember they had that box on the outside of
Yeah.
the window, and your home inspector didn't know what it was.
That's right.
And Google came in handy because I figured it out pretty quick that it was a fire door.
Yeah.
Because the proximity of your home to the next home, you couldn't have a window there unless you had a fire door to drop if the house caught on fire, because the window will blow out and it will catch fire to the neighboring house. So they have code on how far the property has to be to have a window.
So I think I need to get that serviced, and that's kind of the next thing I have to figure out.
Yeah,
is
'cause they'd
who
actually
can come
put-
and service that
Yeah,
thing.
they'd actually put a cage over it or something to keep the birds
Keep
out,
the birds out.
which would stop the device from working, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to figure that out.
Okay, well, maybe somebody listening
Oh, that'd be great.
knows
Yeah.
how to service one of those fire protection blinds, I guess they call them. They
Yeah.
drop down and they're heat sensitive, so
That'd be great.
that'd be great. So if you're just joining us, you're listening to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team, and I have a client of ours here talking with us about the process that he went through. Paul is sharing with us exactly how that made you feel. Now, you've said you've bought other properties. What needs did the Decker team meet that you were looking for in a realtor?
I think number one was lots of experience and the ability to give good advice.
Okay.
So, the reason I came to you, like I said, was I got a referral from some friends at work. And one of the things that they had said is, if you're interested in buying some property and maybe doing some investment and not just buying a property for myself, but also looking a bit longer term, I'd like to buy some income properties, that you've got all this experience and knowledge, and the team has been working in that kind of area for a long time. And so I think that was really appealing. But like the process we went through when we bought the house, it was initially listed and there was no showings for a couple of days. And, you came up with this idea that, well, let's put in a bid right away and see where it goes. And then initially the seller wasn't too comfortable with the idea, and they didn't want to wait a long time for an inspection. And right away you had a solution and said, well, let's get an inspector in right away, and you were able to find somebody to come in like the next day and do an inspection. So all that kind of experience, all that knowledge, it really made me feel comfortable. I wanted somebody that could give me good advice. And, I didn't need the basic stuff. I think I understand the basic process of, getting a mortgage and purchasing a property and change of title and all those kind of mechanisms and getting a lawyer. But what I really was looking for was somebody with, kind of an in-depth knowledge that could provide, guidance and ideas at sort of a more complex situations. And so I thought that was really the appealing thing.
Right. So in that case, we knew that property because you'd gone to see 10 or 11 properties before. We knew that property was well priced and met all your criteria, and it was going to sell quick.
Right.
And so we did everything possible to make it advantageous for the seller to accept our offer, right? And that was the trick.
Well, a number of the neighbors came to me since I've moved in, and we're all shocked at how quickly that sold. We had the property sold before the owner did his his open house. They'd planned an open house for 5 o'clock on a Thursday, and we had executed the purchase agreement before that open house.
Yeah, well, we weren't going to let all those people come in and see
It was great.
your house.
Well, it was great, and there was one other bidder that competed with us, and it was really exciting, and I was like I said, I felt so confident working with you, and I felt I was getting good advice. And when we had to make that, when we had to go ahead and execute that, and it was a bit unconventional, maybe what we're doing, maybe that's not the right word, but it's something that I hadn't
out of the box
experienced.
thinking. Yeah.
It was great to have somebody there who could guide me through that, and I just felt confident the whole way that we were doing the right thing.
Okay, great. So it's even in a market, like you said, there was a lot of inventory. There was a lot of properties to look at, and they're not selling that quickly. And that being said, when a property comes up that's a good property, well maintained, at the right price, there's multiple people wanting it.
Yeah. Right.
so we still had to deal with
We did.
competing with another offer, and we
Even in the slow market that was, that we saw last summer.
So all of that process, was there any time where you felt, oh, I don't feel comfortable because I don't know what's going to happen next, or I'm not sure of the process, or is there any time where you felt out of control?
So I guess there's one kind of thing that threw me off as we went through this, and it didn't bother me for very long, but it was the one thing that happened was I'd looked at sort of the 11th or 12th house, whatever it was, with Candace, and said, no, this isn't the one for me, kind of quite definitive. And Candace said, well, usually when we've looked at 10 or 12 houses, people are starting to get an idea of what they want. And one of the processes Candace went through with me was, let's name the different houses that we see and come up with different names for them. And then you can prioritize, which one meets most of your needs and which one's maybe a second or third based on what you've seen, and using this kind of naming convention. So I think we called one Big Wooden Staircase or something, and I forget what we called them all. We had kind of a name that would kind of click in your head. And anyway, so about after we'd looked at the 11th or 12th house, she said to me, well, usually, people are able to prioritize, and, there's at least one or two that have really caught their eye.
Right.
And I said, Candace, none of them really have struck me.
Yeah.
I didn't think any of the ones that I've seen so far would I want to buy. And I kind of felt like, well, maybe I'm making a mistake here. Maybe I should be relaxing my standards or changing my criteria a little bit in order to meet what's on the market or the price range that I'm in. And so that was the one time when I kind of felt like I was off track. And I'll tell you, within 2 or 3 days of that was when that one house came on the market. And I said, no, that's the one that I'm looking for.
So you knew what you wanted.
Oh, yeah.
We just weren't finding it yet. It had to come on the market.
It did.
Because it wasn't on the market.
Right.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So you've said you bought like 6 properties before. How did your experience with the Decker team differ from other experiences of buying? Now I know some of them you had more rush. They were the military relocations. You worked with the team of us, so you were communicating with our support staff. You were communicating with me. When I wasn't available or injured, Candace was helping you out. How did that process work compared to other times you bought?
So I think I've been pretty lucky. I've had a lot of good real estate agents that I've worked with.
Awesome.
And I would, recommend a number of them that I've worked with in the past. And like I said, one was in Pembroke and one was in Halifax and Kingston, so different places. And so I think I've had pretty good experiences. So it's hard to kind of say, well, there was this aspect that was so much different than anybody else. I think, there was a lot that was similar. But I think the one thing that really stood out for me, as I kind of described already, was that system that you have that allows me to go and look at my properties online. I found that really useful and very different from anything in the past where, you get emails or some kind of notice somehow. Right. And have to, sort through it yourself and keep in mind, what you'd seen before and what you looked at and that kind of thing.
So you really found that beneficial.
I did find that tool really good. And as I said already, I think a little bit too, I've appreciated your experience and the way that we were able to interact and work together. So I think that was really good.
Okay, that's great. And then, so then we met again after you purchased because you came out to one of my wealth building workshops, right? And was there any surprises, any learning there that you thought, were you coming in going, well, I pretty much know a lot about, building wealth or RSPs or TFSAs or investing in real estate? Was there something that caught your eye when you were there?
There was a lot. So in my first visit, you did give me a copy of your book.
Oh, okay.
And,
the Wealth Formula.
The Wealth Formula. And I read that pretty avidly within the first few weeks after our meeting and really enjoyed it. And I have read a number of different books in the past. The Wealthy Barber and a different number of things. And there's something about your book that really did click for me. I think I was mentioning to you before, since I read your book, I've gotten ahead and gotten a family doctor again, which I hadn't had for a while.
Okay.
I joined a gym. I updated my will. I've done a number of these things that you talk about in your book that's kind of like, you should be doing these things to look after yourself and looking after your family. And I think part of what is really struck me was, there's some key things that I really should be doing to look after the people that I love and make sure that they're looked after, if something were to happen to me. Excellent. And so I've gone ahead and done a lot of those things. So that's kind of the preamble. I guess your question was more about, what did I find out at the seminar? I think there was even more at the seminar. I thought you'd kind of cover what was going to be in your book. And it ended up being a pretty small audience that night. I don't know if you remember. And so you were able to, talk about a whole range of things that, were more in depth and different from, just the stuff that was covered in your book. And it was really helpful. And actually, based on some of the interactions we had and the advice that you gave, I've actually changed one of my investments recently, and really happy with it and looking forward to seeing how that performs.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much. I'm just going to talk about a couple of things now. We really appreciate you coming and sharing with our audience. We have a client celebration coming up on March the 5th. If you've been a client of ours, bought or sold, or presently thinking of buying or selling, give us a call. We're having a family day on March the 5th. It's a Saturday. Chili cook-off and pie cook-off. So if you're good at cooking chili or good at cooking pies, baking pies I guess would be a better term, then come out and compete against mine, because I'm pretty world famous on those two things. Then we have a couple properties we like to highlight. We've got 2 waterfront properties coming up. One in Manotick at $750,000. That may sound expensive, but that's pretty much a bargain in Manotick area for a waterfront property on the Rideau River. And it's not on the back channel; it's on the main channel, a quiet section of the channel actually, so that you can put a boat in there and go boating. That's a great property. It's not like a cottage; it's a full home. And then we have another one if you want to be a little further out on the Big Rideau. We have one coming up at $599,000. It's a beautiful lake house, just gorgeous views, and nice dock down at the water. Big piece of water there, because it's the Big Rideau. That's why they call it the Big Rideau. And so if you're interested in a waterfront property, give us a call at 613-860-4663. And I know it's a little cold yet, but the warmth is coming. The warm weather's coming. And you might just want to be on a waterfront, especially that one in Manotick. Means you can have your home and your cottage all combined. Because sometimes people say, well, the cottage is a bit of a pain because you got to pack everything up and go on the weekend. You got to maintain 2 properties, cut grass at 2 places, and all of that. Whereas if you have waterfront property right here and then you commute into work, only 10, 15 minutes or whatever, that may be a great alternative. So if you're thinking of selling a home, buying a home, or investing in real estate, the Decker team is the right choice. Give us a call at 613-860-4663. That's 613-860-4663. Bye for now.